What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Fumble Live. It's been a big 24 hours. We have a lot to get into. The docket is super full, but first, I'm Devin Howard. On Instagram is @DevinHoward.
I'm Jackie Ray, everywhere @JRay the Fanatic.
I'm Bridget Johnson.
Bridget
Jones. I'm Bridget Johnson. You can follow me on all social media @IamBridJohnson.
And I am Chris.
Jackie
not
Party
me.
Foul.
That wasn't me. I'm Chris and I'm a ventriloquist.
We're all a little off today. Busy 24 hours.
Yeah, it's been
Yes.
crazy, man. Be following me everywhere, CK2K. You know the deal.
Okay, so it's been crazy. We do have a lot to get into, like I mentioned earlier, but we do want to discuss a quick conspiracy theory that we've heard of. So, Britt, why don't you read that out loud?
So we
It's a
got a
fire
conspiracy theory. It states, I will just read this verbatim.
I wish we had
I am
music.
not a conspiracy theorist, but we need to look at the facts.
Go ahead.
Space Jam. Just starting like that is already an issue. Space Jam was released on VHS March 11th, 1997, and the
Yesterday.
NBA season was suspended on March 11th, 2020.
Checks
This
out.
is exactly 23 years later. Who wore number 23? That would be Michael Jordan, who is also the star of Space Jam. The
So
first
far, so
NBA
good.
players that tested positive for coronavirus were players on the Utah Jazz, which is the last team Michael Jordan beat to win his 6th championship ring. Hashtag conspiracy theory. What do we think of this conspiracy
What do we
theory?
do now? Who is this Michael Jordan's fault?
But-
That's your GOAT.
It's not his fault. He was just going to save everybody. He was already playing baseball at that time,
So-
okay?
so now it's up to
maybe
LeBron.
They want Michael Jordan
Wait.
back in the league, maybe?
Wait, is my boy trying to say this is all some kind of grand scheme to get us to go watch Space Jam 2? Because we gonna do it anyways. Like, we didn't need this
I'm
conspiracy.
glad you were
Yeah,
right there because I didn't know
that's-
where this conspiracy
Nah,
was
man.
going. I'm like,
It is. I mean, literally, this is kind of like what happened in Space Jam when, like, the players
is.
are like, "Oh, we're losing our talent,"
Yeah.
and then they were like, "What do we do?" The NBA, they were shutting down the forum and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and like tending it. So
They want to catch it. They didn't know what it was.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
actually the movie companies. Who's producing this?
Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So Warner Brothers did this to us.
So you think it's Warner
And
Brothers'
LeBron.
fault?
No, I don't think.
And LeBron.
Wait a minute.
LeBron.
And he's the
look,
he's the new Michael Jordan, the new
and he
Space
still
Jam.
wears
I know
23.
my mug.
We don't have our mugs.
I don't have my mug, but that's okay. I've ordered a new mug so that some of you guys can't see the bronze sexual, but now you're just gonna see this. Bam.
Oh, perfect.
Got it.
You guys, don't worry. Jackie
you.
will get you with the mug life.
I like it.
I feel-
Hashtag mug life.
I think this theory is like, okay, all the numbers make sense. It's a good, there's good
Come on, Devin.
connectivity, but it's very loosely woven
I
together.
always wonder who sits down and like
It comes
figures this
right.
out. They're
I
like,
know.
What, can I match this with
Smart
make this a
people,
thing?
man. Like, they're putting this to, yes.
I mean, I was totally all about all the
100%.
Tupac conspiracies, so I mean, this is a thing. I get it.
It's a
I
Oh
get
wow,
it.
we have some.
Because I swear Tupac was alive.
Oh,
For a
yeah.
long time. I interviewed Barry Gordy one time, and I asked him if he thought Tupac was alive, and I was like, I think he's going to come out at the Mayweather fight because. And then Barry was like, Oh, well, see you later.
You're saying to me, oh, I can't talk to you anymore, sorry.
I want to read this in the chat. Maurice Mango said, wow, I said Space Jam is a big conspiracy like when the first NBA lockdown happened and then when COVID-19 came about. So I guess he's on board the Space Jam
As he should be.
coronavirus conspiracy.
It's an educated fellow. No,
It's not on The Simpsons, so it's not a conspiracy.
Okay, yeah, so fill us in on this
So?
a little.
It's not on The Simpsons. The Simpsons has gotten
This
everything
was a
right.
good one, though. I liked
Unfortunately
it. This was a good one.
No, it
I'm
was
not
creative.
mad
It
at
was creative.
Okay, we have a lot to get into, so I feel like we should jump in. This is all going to be on theme with the coronavirus updates that we've been hearing about. So I'm sure you all know the NBA suspended the season yesterday after Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus. The league announced that the suspension would start today, but the last game that was slated to happen yesterday, which was Pelicans versus Kings, was canceled after the announcement. We also had a second player who tested positive for coronavirus, Donovan Mitchell. It'll be really, really detrimental to the team. I mean, there's going to be so much revenue that's lost, and that's going to be a hard hit, especially after all of the disruption that was caused with the dispute between the NBA and the Chinese government. So it's kind of crazy. After Donovan and Rudy's diagnoses, several teams are now undergoing self-quarantine. The 5 teams that played the Jazz in recent weeks were instructed to quarantine, which includes the Cavaliers, Knicks, Pistons, Raptors, and Celtics. And then on top of that, the team plane that was used to transport Utah Jazz to Oklahoma City was later used to transport both Orlando Magic and the Memphis Grizzlies. So they're, I think, undergoing self-quarantine as well. But the NBA is not the only league that's reacting very swiftly to the spread of this virus. We've learned that multiple NFL teams are discussing shutting down their training facilities due to the coronavirus. This hasn't been confirmed by the league yet, but it's something that's been floating around online. Major League Soccer season was also suspended for 30 days based on advice from the CDC. The AAC, SEC, and Big Ten tournaments have all been canceled. The MLB held a conference call. I'm like losing my breath.
Get it all out.
I want to fill you guys in. The MLB held a conference call with all 30 teams to discuss spring training and the opening of the season. There was a tweet that said after the call, Major League Baseball is expected to suspend spring training. The league likely will delay the beginning of the regular season as well. At this point, it's a formality that ownership level sources expect to happen. The NHL suspended their regular season as well due to the spread of the virus. On the flip side, the Big East tournament is going on as scheduled,
It
though.
was actually canceled.
Oh, it was canceled now? Okay, so that was a new update.
Yeah.
So let's just discuss this. We're going to get into more specifics like Rudy Gobert and the whole controversy surrounding him. But first, let's just talk about what the effects of this will be and what your thoughts are on all of this.
Well, real quick on the plane thing, Delta actually announced that they fogged the plane after every time teams have gotten off the plane, so the other teams are actually not at risk of getting anything because they've been fogging every plane every time people get on, and that one's not a passenger plane anyway, so those teams are not at risk of the coronavirus because they flew on that particular plane. But I don't even know there's a lot.
I'd still be worried about regular planes, and it's so funny because I saw the guy on Spirit, which he probably should do this on Spirit anyway, but he had got this little tent and zipped himself in.
Oh, I saw it too.
I sent that?
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
so he zipped himself into his passenger seat, and so that way you couldn't basically even get to it at all. But it looked hot, number one. Like it looked like he was. I don't know how long.
Hey, but they're saying heat's good at killing the coronavirus. So I mean, sweat it out, bro.
Humidity, yeah.
Right.
But as far as this goes with the leagues and stuff, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, seriously.
So for the NBA, let's just start with the NBA, I guess. So for the NBA, I don't think it's a huge issue for them. I don't know if they necessarily even continue the full slate of games or just maybe do the last 7 to 10 games that they were expected to play. We've been through lockouts before in 2011. The schedule went from 82 games to 66 games, and they still just continued. They didn't redo the games or whatever. But because the NBA season is supposed to end June 12th, at July, August, there's nothing going on. So if it does get pushed back, it doesn't really hurt them at all. It doesn't affect them TV-wise because nothing else is going on besides regular season baseball. Nobody really cares about regular season baseball like that on television-wise, So
I feel like
they're not going to have an issue there.
Offended real diehard baseball fans.
Well, real diehard fans go to games.
Yeah, exactly.
But now,
Seriously, they don't watch
MLB's
on
been
TV.
canceled too, so everything's going to get pushed back. So I don't think it affects the NBA really at all if it's just a couple months. But there has been a question. Is this permanently going to change the NBA season? Because if they're playing until August, then does now the new start date for the next season get pushed back so they can have their off-season time and time to make, because they can't have a draft until after the season is over because they do trades in the draft and all that kind of stuff. So now are we forever now going to see a different season for the NBA?
That's what I was
And it's
wondering,
crazy
too.
because that was already pitched though. Before any of this was going on, it was already being pitched, and there was an idea out there that the season would start in December, going into the same July, August. At some point, this would be way down the line. But now with this going on, that might fast forward the process, and it might be the new norm, which isn't too bad. Because like you said, there's that open spot during the summer. I know baseball is out there, but you can still go to the games. That's not going to stop you from doing that. But there is that open spot for sports, so it might be the smart thing to do, especially if this ends up coming back and ends up working.
Yeah, and Mark Cuban actually spoke to that too because they have been talking about that in recent years. And the only reason why the season was what it was and it didn't go longer into the summertime was because television time used to drop a lot during the summertime. Obviously, we know that's not the case anymore. So they have been, that's always been an option in the last couple of years for the NBA to do something like that. So I guess
this might be the.
So last night, after I stopped panicking, because I was legit panicking, I was in the chat with a bunch of my friends who work. One's a writer for the Clippers, one's a writer for the Lakers. Get me in. But they both said that what they're hearing is that the NBA is thinking about. Now, obviously, there's just a bunch of conversations right now because I don't think anyone really expected this to happen, especially not this quickly. Mark Cuban's reaction is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa! But, I think they were talking about, there's like some of the rumors that they're hearing is that they're going to stop the season right now and just start the playoffs.
Yeah, I heard that too.
While I'm not upset with that for the number 1, 2, and even the 3-4 seed, that
but there's still,
8th seed is up for grabs in both divisions, and I just think ending it now and not giving those other teams a solid chance. I mean, I get it though, safety first, but this is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about the implications for these suspensions for the NBA a little bit later. But what I do want to know is that we talked about this a lot. We've been talking about it a lot. We thought that the NBA would definitely never eliminate fans. We thought that was just like a big, we're just trying to be proactive.
We also got to give Jackie some props because way back when, Jackie, that was the very first thing you said was like, that's nice, but what about the players? That's my Jackie impression, by the way. And here we are.
Is that it?
I don't know about that. But and then here we are, and because we all knew that once any of these players contracted it, that this was what was going to happen.
Right.
There was going to be no more games being played. But it just seemed, like you said, like we were, well, for the most part, we were cautious of it, but we were all thinking like, oh, it's not going to happen. Empty stadiums, whatever it is. But here we are where it's the players now, and it's a completely different ball game.
Players, they have no idea what's going on. And I spoke with several NBA players last night, and they're like, we don't know. We were just told to go home. You can't leave the city because there's a lot of teams are still going to be doing like team events or team workout stuff or whatever. But most of the teams haven't been tested. Even the Thunder, actually, they weren't tested for the coronavirus.
Right.
They were checked to see if they had a fever, to go home, self-quarantine, and then at that point they were going to be, like, if they had symptoms, to then contact the, like, organization. But even the Thunder, they weren't tested for it themselves. But all the guys I know are sitting at home just chilling.
Which is crazy, especially after finding out.
They don't know what's going on.
Yes.
They haven't been told anything else than
But that's
what we know.
crazy to me, especially after now finding out that Donovan Mitchell, who had no symptoms, was positive for the coronavirus, who was in the building and who was on the court with those guys. And you hear that nobody on the Thunder was actually tested.
But that's why
crazy.
I'm concerned about everyone, because I don't know if I'm the only one who watches Dateline, but they did that whole expose about the planes and how they're absolutely just a germ.
It's so
like
gross.
a germ bus.
Germs, man.
So now I always take my little Lysol wipes, but now it's like, okay, I think a lot of us probably thought, like I did, where there's so many other things, and I'm not an elderly person with a compromised immune system. I'm probably fine. But I think that when we think about when we think about athletes at all, we think about people who are strong without a compromised immune system. So I do, although this is horrible what's happening to the NBA, I am glad that it's, because all of a sudden the awareness, just people were like,
that's true.
Just the Google searches went up, people are more
It's
aware.
unfortunate, but you're
I
right.
never thought I wouldn't get it or didn't have a chance of getting it. They've stated like 70 to 150 million Americans are probably going to get it, but the likeliness of us dying from it is the issue.
Right.
It's only a lot of young people actually have gotten it, but it's only the older people that have died from it.
A lot of kids carry it. A lot of kids carrying
Yeah.
it, but they're not getting affected by it.
Stay away from them kids, man.
So you got to stop the spread. That's the thing.
Are you all surprised to see, especially in the last 24 hours, all of the leagues taking such swift and serious action with this?
Adam Silver's the GOAT.
He's
a really
He
good
keeps proving it, bro.
commissioner, and
He keeps proving
he's
it.
always ahead of things. Anything,
Facts.
even when it was like the Black Lives Matter stuff, he's ahead of it. He's letting the players do what they got. He's always been a great commissioner, and I'm not surprised at all.
So Donovan Mitchell did post something on his Instagram. I just want to read you his caption. He said, "Thanks to everyone who's been reaching out since hearing the news about my positive test. We're all learning more about the seriousness of this situation, and hopefully people can continue to educate themselves and realize that they need to behave responsibly both for their own health and for the well-being of those around them. I appreciate the authorities in Oklahoma who were helpful with the testing process and everyone from Utah Jazz who have been so supportive. I'm going to keep following advice of our medical staff and hope that we can all come come together and be there for each other and our neighbors who need our help. So this caption seems to point a finger right at Rudy, because we've been hearing that he has been acting carelessly, touching the players and their belongings in the locker room. There was that one interview that he had where he touched all of the microphones on the table before leaving. So he's obviously been making light of the issue, and I think a lot of people have. I mean, it's hard to really, sometimes it seems hard to take it seriously because it's just so widespread, and people are like, wash your hands, and so the solution seems simple. But do you feel that Rudy should receive some sort of consequences, a ban, a fine, or is getting the virus enough of a punishment?
I think getting the virus is enough of a punishment, and I get it. People are gonna be like, "Oh, you saw him," because we did see him, like you said, in that where he was just like, but it's cute and funny until you get the virus. Then it's all of a sudden you go back to this and you go, "What the hell are you doing?" But I do think he is operating the way a lot of Americans are operating. I feel like right now, especially in our country,
he ain't even American.
Right, exactly. I think, but we are literally on two opposite sides of the spectrum. You have the parents that are sending their kids to school wrapped in trash bags, because they're afraid, and then you have people like Rudy that are like, "Man, we good, calm down." And you don't. Yeah. I think the middle people are being the logical, like, let me just take precautions, but let me not panic.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, I've been saying since we talked about this, like, we've got other things to worry about. We've got more serious things to worry about.
Yes,
right now, as we speak, more people are dying from cancer than they are of this virus. And so I probably would have been that one that's like, I'm not going to do it to Devin because I don't want to see her freak out on air. But I'd be the one that like touched everything and just make light of it because, like Britt said yesterday, there's a lot that the government probably knows that they are not telling us. And since we don't have that information, you do end up on one side or the other. So I don't think you fine him for that. I just don't.
I actually think it's disgusting, all the people that have been on social media saying all this negative stuff, like, "Oh, Rudy's did it," and who says Rudy was the first person to test positive for it?
Right.
But there could have been another NBA player that currently has it that didn't, because let's put it on the table. Rudy was not in the arena because they were going to test him. If the test was going to be negative, he was going to play. Right. So he felt well enough to play basketball, which means he wasn't that sick, you know? And that's going to be a lot of people. A lot of people are going to have a cough or whatever. And now, obviously, we know about when people get in fights at restaurants because somebody sneezed on, but really you don't, that person actually probably does have it. Like, I've seen my friends on social media, like, posting, "Oh, I'm so sick right now. I just have a cold," and I'm just like, "Oh, coronavirus." And they're like, "No, I don't have," but do you actually know if you have it or not? Because a lot of us are going to have mild symptoms of it, and we're going to get rid of it, and we're never going to even know we had it, but we probably then just passed it to 10 other people.
Right.
Yeah, see, I don't feel that he needs to be fined or banned for this behavior, but I do think it was a little reckless and inconsiderate when people do have family members who are, unable to leave their homes because they're in self-quarantine or who have died from it. So I don't know.
I think after
shook my
you
head.
just played a game where you're exchanging sweat with other players, I don't really think that I think that is reckless, to him then go and touch, like, I've already
But the
been
only
touching
problem is
everybody
he's
else.
bringing in the reporters into that, though. That's the only problem with that part. Because you're doing it with the players, I get that, but now when you're touching the other microphones, you're bringing the reporters into that,
was
too.
it the media that was upset that they couldn't go into the locker rooms?
Right.
That's true. You're right.
So, like, he's like, literally, "Oh, you guys are scared of me or whatever." Really, it was a thing protecting the players from the media or whatever.
Right.
And, like, who's to say any of those media people got it or they gave it to him? I don't know. That's, like, a whole nother thing. But, like, that's easy, too. You could have just wiped down your mic if you were, like, scared of it. But a lot of the people that were in that room at the time actually tweeted after and laughed. And they're like, "Oh,
yeah, they
Rudy
said
did
it and
this,"
laughed.
and
Yeah.
they laughed about
Yeah,
it.
they
So they weren't worried about it like that either, you know? So maybe he was a little, but everybody's a little reckless, actually, like, everybody was at a point where they're like, "Oh, it's not that serious." Like, Rudy Gobert doesn't have it, or like, "I don't have it." You probably gave it to Rudy, don't even know,
Yeah. I feel like you have something to say.
I just saw somebody in the chat said that don't compare cancer to the coronavirus. Vanessa Martinez.
I saw that too.
You know what? That's not a comparison. But
That's
what I'm
not what
saying
you did.
is half of you guys right now got some fried food in your hand and you're not worried about cancer. So if you're not, I just feel like we just freak out about the wrong things. You know what I mean? Now everybody's like, "Oh, you got to wash your hands for 20 seconds. How long
Now.
are you washing your hands
Keyword is
for?
now. That's why.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously I know most of you guys saw the Nebraska head coach sick on the sideline yesterday.
Right.
Freddie.
And it was very interesting that like he was out there feeling the way he did with everything going on. But then when he did go and get tested out, he was actually rushed to the hospital immediately following the game. The Indiana head coach didn't even, he's like, oh yeah, I already saw you over there. I don't know why this coach would have been around his players sick like that anyway. But he comes back. It was just announced a few hours ago that he just had the flu. So then he got sent back to his hotel. But I'm like, the flu is worse than the coronavirus, and people aren't even noticing that. Like,
it's just the flu.
He just had the flu. It's fine. It's okay if he was around his whole team with the flu. Like, no, the flu. Same with the coronavirus. It's really just going to be the older people that die from it. Right. The kids are going to maybe get the flu and then be fine. But it's the passing on of it, and it's like. The flu kills so many more people than the coronavirus does, and we're literally saying, "Oh, you just had the flu; he's fine."
Right.
Because we just have this hashtag coronavirus in our head right now.
Right.
But there are so many worse things that are happening, and we didn't even notice that actually that guy being sick is worse than him having the coronavirus.
Exactly.
Yeah, I read a statistic that said Google searches and media mentions for coronavirus were up to like 1.1 billion, which was far greater than any other mass pandemic that we've had
Ebola,
or
like
anything. Yeah. So it does seem to be inflated a little bit by the media, but at the same time, it's so unknown. There's so much about it that we're still trying to figure out, which I think is why it's scary and why it is capturing the attention of so many people.
The unknown is what's scary to me because
Same.
it's been around for so long and everybody's kind of like, it's here, but it's never going to really get us. And now it's like, it's got us. I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what do we do?
And then
that's scary to me.
You see, professional athletes get it. You see Tom Hanks get it. I mean, it's like starting to touch the people that seem invincible.
Right.
And,
and unfortunately, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately what it takes
That
for
is
a lot
what
of
it
people
takes.
to, be like, yeah.
And people hate when I make this comparison too, but unfortunately that's exactly what Magic did for HIV because especially in the black community, we were like, oh no, that's not a us disease, that's
That's not a straight man
that's
disease.
not a straight man disease. And then Magic got, and everybody was like, well, hold on now, hold on.
And they never canceled basketball.
They never canceled, but remember
and it was
how
still
he was
new at that time.
he was ostracized.
Well,
Nobody wanted to
They were
play
scared
with
to
him.
touch him.
Originally, he quit. Like, he ended up retiring and then came back.
But then through Magic, we all got this knowledge. We got a better understanding of it. It kind of eased our panic because we were forced to educate ourselves. You know what I mean? And I think, unfortunately for Rudy, he's going to be, to a lighter extent, that guy.
Yeah.
Now we're forced to educate ourselves. Like,
Right.
okay, if Rudy can get it,
Yeah.
we all can get it.
Yeah, we're all susceptible. Well, let's jump into the NBA and how this suspension is going to affect the season, the players, pretty much everything surrounding these games. So obviously, like you mentioned before, Britt, this isn't the first time that they have had a shortened season or may have a shortened season. There was that lockout in 2011 that reduced the season to 66 games. And the NBA does have a duty to make sure that the health and safety of the employees, the athletes, the fans is a priority. So I understand why they reacted in this way and made sure to cancel games at least until further notice. But this could impact so far beyond the game itself. So the athletes aren't going to be playing, which means the employees in the arena likely won't be getting paid. The businesses around each arena are not going to be receiving as much business over the next few weeks, which is crazy. People could be losing their jobs. It's insane. But how do you feel the season will be affected moving forward? Do you feel like they're going to just jump right into the playoffs? That would be kind of a really tough thing to do right now with the 8th seed so tight in the Western Conference. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know until they tell us. You know what I mean? I think, like I said, it would be unfortunate if they just went straight to the playoffs. I get it. I would understand it, especially, like Britt said, what are we going to do? Just play super close to the start of the next season and not have an off season? Because a lot of people rely on that off season to get their bodies back in health, step up their game and whatnot. So I don't really know. I don't think the 1 through 4 spot care if we go to the playoffs because those are pretty much locked in. But anything after that, it's kind of a close race.
Yeah.
And, like we said yesterday, it would be unfortunate if you were kind of having this late season push,
nice run,
and then so much for your push, you know. So I just don't know, but I do agree with Britt 100%. Adam Silver is the GOAT, and I think whatever he decides is going to take all things into consideration, and it's going to be it's going to be the best for the league.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, one thing that I do want to mention really quickly is that if we do take, 2 weeks off, a month off, 2 months off, however long it's going to be, the players may come back feeling like they've just come out of an off season. It'll be some rest time. Is that going to change the game for when they do resume?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, for a lot of this is a good thing for a lot of these teams because now they're getting an extra rest going, especially if they do this where they go right into the playoffs, especially like the team like the Clippers who all season, I mean, they've been back healthy lately, but all season they've had their injuries and stuff like that, and this helps boost up this team for this final push, and you'll see that for a lot of these teams. Giannis Antetokounmpo was going to be missing a lot of time, and with this, now he's going to come back healthy like nothing
right.
happened. You know what I'm saying? So, it can be very beneficial, which could be not so beneficial for other teams that were, like you said, streaking and ready to go right now, going right into the playoffs.
Like LeBron, he's got that groin injury that's just waiting to pounce. So I'm not mad at this rest for him, because getting past that. Because once that groin hits you, you're kind of done. And I don't need him to be done anytime soon. So, but again, other teams, what's that mean for everybody? And I'm not mad at everybody having a chance to overcome injuries, but this is just not. You don't want it to be under these circumstances.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
As far as the employees are concerned, I think Mark Cuban made a good stand. He said for the first 4 games to start off with, he's going to pay all his part-time employees their full salary, and then after that point, once they kind of reevaluate when is the league returning, they'll then go back to the drawing board and see if they could continue to pay them, and then maybe have them do some charity work or whatever the case is to kind of just make sure that they don't lose their jobs or lose opportunities. Obviously, I believe other organizations should step up as well and do that, especially Joe Lacob, who said his organization makes so much money. So maybe make sure you help out your part-time employees that are going to be without work right now.
Totally. Now if he doesn't, and you've been bragging about all this money,
you got.
You look bad. He's bad.
That's like going to a strip club and having all these ones and not making it rain on it. And then walking out with the same ones.
And you only tipped your bartender $5.
Well, he seems like the type of guy who would talk about how much money he has because he wants to keep it that way.
Yeah,
He doesn't want to be
facts.
giving it away.
Facts.
So,
But I am really glad that Mark Cuban thinks about the little guy because
it's amazing.
He's always been like that.
He has. I love Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
He's said some things throughout the years that have really inspired me, but I think the fact that he's the first one to come out and say, that
was one of the first
guy.
things he talked about. He talked about his family and how he was going to check on his mom, and the second thing he said was my part-time employees.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Because there's literally people right now who are probably that's their third job just to make ends meet.
Right.
And you take that little bit of money away, and now their whole family's in a
changes a
situation.
lot of things,
and
man.
so shouts out to him for that for sure.
yeah. All right, well, let's get into Chris. Give us your
it's
intro.
that time. Yes, well, we got a lot of reactions to everything we
Like,
talked
I know.
about in
Yeah.
Post Up with your boy Chris. A lot of this stuff is reactions after all the news that we heard yesterday, starting with Miss Bronsexual herself here. Her boy LeBron reacted right after the news came out that the NBA would be suspended with the tweet that said, "Man, we canceling sports events, schools, office work, etc., etc. What we really need to cancel is 2020. Damn, it's been a rough 3 months. God bless and stay safe."
I agree.
I mean, I think everyone agrees.
Yeah.
agree.
You like 2020 so far?
No,
Personally?
I just say I'm alive and I'm healthy. So, and I, as far as I know, don't have the coronavirus. So I personally think you should look on the brighter side of things and
Amen.
because a lot of other
I
people have
respect
had
that.
a bad 2020.
A
So
lot.
compared to their 2020, my 2020 is not too bad. I'm not going to complain about it.
I mean, I agree on that aspect. My 2020 is definitely better than my 2019 and far better than my 2018. 2018 was rough, y'all. But,
My 2018 was lit. I want to go back.
2017 was my year, and then it was 2008. Well, let's rewind to 2017. 2019, I'm I'm in here. 2020, I'm we got this.
Right. No, you need to stay positive.
Yeah.
Yes, it starts out, but I feel at this point that we can only go up from here.
Right.
Right.
Starting
you know
us
what?
off rough with these first 3 months, and it's got to go. Yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, so I think we need to stay positive. I think that, especially coming from LeBron,
I think it was
usually
lighthearted,
really
though.
positive,
I don't
but-
think it was anything to
Well,
be.
yeah, I
it's
don't
more
think it was
yeah,
whatever.
Right.
Because literally everybody's said that same tweet.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
but
why I
different
was just saying
way,
it
yeah.
wasn't unique.
But
Yeah.
I want to tell you guys, let's just stay positive. It's going to get better.
And that is important, though,
It's
because
raining right now.
some people-
Sunshine's going to come out.
some people
Look
forget.
at the sunshine right here.
Yeah,
The only
we do
person
have
that
a
didn't get the
rain.
green memo.
Oh, she got it.
Nah, she pulled a
Wait.
Chris.
Is it yellow and earth tone? We said
It is.
earth
We
tone.
said earth tone.
Nah,
Okay,
yellow up in the
yellow.
sky. No, I'm not giving her that. Earth is one thing. Yellow is the sun. Yes. You know
What
what?
about flowers?
Independence Day?
There's
Independence Day?
sunflowers.
Oh, Stop.
Earth, not
Earth. Yeah, from Independence Day. Welcome to Earth. Yeah, man.
Earth.
Will Smith. Shout out to Will Smith.
Oh my God. See, now you made forget me everything I was gonna say. I can't stand you.
Yeah,
Chris.
because you're up there in space with the sun.
No, but I do think it's important to stay positive because I was also reading now when I was in my panic phase and I was reading everything. They say I was reading everything, y'all. But they say stress and depression compromises your immune system.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of find a way to look at the bright side because it's just going to be better for you health-wise.
Yep.
So yeah, for sure.
And that was before the coronavirus and definitely now during the coronavirus.
Absolutely.
It was true both times. Moving on to another reaction by D-Book. You guys know him, Phoenix Suns, you know, shooting guard, blah, blah, blah. Well, last night, 2 nights ago, Call of Duty for my gamers out there, they had a new Battle Royale mode come out, so everybody's jumping on that train on Twitch. And Devin Booker, who has a full-time job where he gets paid a lot of money to play, jumped on that train, and he was streaming on Twitch when he found out the news that the league was suspended. And his reaction was, it was definitely priceless, and we got the clip going on right there. He was just as shocked as Mark Cuban, but he was like, you could see the wave of emotions go through his face when he found out.
I like that he just keeps playing too.
That's the thing, like, cause he's looking, but when you play video games, you know, like, you can't stand still. So you can tell, like, he's looking around, but you know you gotta move around, cause if you look the game, he's just ducking down. He ain't doing nothing, but he's just moving so you don't get hit. So that's crazy. To find out that way though, that's pretty insane.
Right?
That's pretty insane.
Yeah.
And then you're on stream, and I'm sure his chat, like everybody was saying, "Did you hear? Yo, D-Book, you ain't playing. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done." To get confirmed, like, it's crazy
I
stuff.
love Chris's impressions.
They're the best.
I'm an animated guy, I apologize. But moving on now to the Clippers, JaMychal Green, one of my favorite Clippers. He was out there. I love JaMychal Green. I want him in free agency, but it's okay. JaMychal Green is out there preparing. He's not taking this. He's taking this serious. Excuse me. You see, he got a nice spot in that line too.
You
I'm not mad at
clearly see,
him.
I go straight to the giant bottle of bleach that's
Yes.
at the bottom
Yeah.
of his.
Everything is getting cleaned out. Like, he is going for everything. And you got to respect it. And what I also respect is the fact that he has an assortment of stuff in his cart. Like, he's preparing
He
for
didn't just
everything.
have a whole cart full of toilet
Exactly,
paper.
and water, right.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm
The
saying.
water thing actually trips me out because, like, y'all know, like, the water fountain or the faucets are still going to work.
Yeah.
Buy a Brita
Like,
filter,
just
man.
buy a filter.
Buy a
Like,
Brita filter. It's
why
a
are
little
you
more
buying a
expensive,
bunch
but-
of things of water bottles when you could just get a filter?
I read a whole article about this, and people are buying water in bulk because they're afraid that if water factory or water plant employees
Purifications
get
and stuff.
sick, they're not going to have a water supply in the same way. But, like, use a Brita filter. That's what I use.
Do we know Brita filters can filter out coronavirus?
I
do
mean,
we
I
know
don't think
about
it's
that?
carried in
I don't know.
water.
Yeah.
Can it go
Well,
through? I don't. That's true. It's probably not.
Humidity
You're right.
anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually bought a Brita
Just
filter.
boil your
I had an
water.
old one, but
That
I got
too.
a new one. And the reason I got it is because I'm lazy. I don't like to go grocery shopping. Just because the grocery store that I live by
Packed?
is always packed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't have
I know
time
that
for
struggle.
it. So I have mine delivered. So I was like, well, let me just go ahead. And I didn't do the toilet paper thing because I didn't think to order toilet paper in bulk. But
Like, you see Jackie at the door. Wear your gloves.
right.
With the guy with all your.
And you're washing your hands anyway, so I guess just use your
Yeah,
hands.
yeah.
So
Worst comes to worst.
I tried to order, I ordered some vegetables, and I was like, let me get some canned food, but like they were completely out of water. Like I couldn't even have water delivered, and so that made, and this was like 4 or 5 days ago. This wasn't even like after last night. So I was like, oh, well, let me just get a Brita filter, which was on sale.
Yes.
And I was like, how? This is
People are
perfect.
so-
Y'all think ahead, man.
I know.
Silly.
I'm saying,
We
man.
shouldn't be using
it's
this much
simple.
plastic anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
All of a sudden, recycling. Yeah, no one cares about that stuff anymore. No one cares about the
Right.
turtles. Shout out to turtles.
We need to react to climate change the way we're reacting to coronavirus.
I
What-
do
right?
think
Yeah.
it's like the PR person for Corona needs to be the PR person for
Man,
COVID.
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yes.
That is a
Because
fact.
really, that's what's really like going to kill all of us.
Right.
Not the
Uh-huh.
coronavirus.
I know. We're
No
all
one
at
is
risk
safe
in
from
that one.
climate change. Yeah. Moving on to Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson. As you guys know, their game yesterday was canceled, and while everyone else cleared out the stadium, they had to stay there. They were being quarantined within the locker rooms and stuff. So there was a moment here we saw Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson just trying to get some air, like, because everyone's gone. And at the minute that camera guy came up and caught them, like, you can see the reactions, like, God damn, like.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
Like 5 seconds, It's like, can we just have 5 seconds to look? Donovan's like, oh, gotta go.
Yeah,
gotta
don't
go.
blame him.
And also shout out for Donovan Mitchell for having some gloves on. Jordan, Where's your gloves, dog? Where you wear your gloves at? I don't know if you
Well,
wash your
Donovan
hands.
Mitchell ended up being one of the ones that had it,
Right,
so
isn't that crazy
he
too?
really needed to like make sure he didn't give it to nobody else.
But he didn't know at that time. Like,
Yeah, he
that's,
didn't
that's
know at
insane.
that time.
That's insane. And he was
Yeah,
so
they were
good,
there
so-
for about 5 hours,
Yeah.
and then finally got to be put into a hotel room and stayed there until they were found out who else had it.
And then poor
so.
Donovan found out
Can you
the news
imagine
this
though
morning.
finding out that you have it and not
And
having a
feeling
moment
fine.
to even process
Yeah.
it either?
Yeah.
Like just being like you have it, and then all the cameras are like, so, and you're like,
The
can
whole-
I just get a
The
minute?
whole team
Yeah.
is still going to be quarantined because it takes 5 to 14 days for
Right.
you to show any symptoms or whatever, or to actually like test positive for it. So now that they're going back to Utah, they had to take 2 separate planes. A plane that was the positive people, and then a plane that's the negative
that
people.
crazy?
And then they
Wow.
have to stay in 2 separate areas. So the positive ones, so just Donovan and Rudy will stay in a separate area.
wanna hear that
hotel, And then
conversation.
the rest of them have to stay.
I wanna
together.
hear
Me
the
too, like, bro,
conversation.
this is your fault.
Oh,
How do
man,
you
man,
think? What do you
man.
think they're saying?
I think they're saying a lot of things because there's already a GIF way before any of this of Donovan Mitchell at a post game doing his interview and Rudy Gobert just coming up and rubbing his hands
Yep.
all over him. So now that's resurfacing after all this.
Oh my
so it's
gosh.
like, oh my
And
goodness.
in,
It was just a joke.
in
Man.
Donovan's caption, he kind of does say like
Yes.
that thing about acting carefully and all that. So he
And
does
for your
kind of.
neighbors and stuff like that. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
They're gonna touch each other anyway. Even
But
I was
it's
just
excessive.
watching when they announced that ACC was gonna
Yeah.
be canceled. All the Florida State players were all
on each other.
touching, rubbing each other's back and stuff, and I'm just like, they're teammates. That's what they're gonna do. But then
Right.
you see the other team, Clemson, they're all like standing like a foot apart
Don't
from
touch
each
me, dog.
other,
Right.
like.
Don't touch me,
But
dog.
the whole Florida State team was all like cuddled together, like
That's Florida.
rubbing each other's feet.
Because it's Florida.
Florida, you know?
Said
Rubbing each other's feet. Yeah, that's the most
Oh,
Florida
oh
thing.
my
That
God.
fits Florida perfectly.
Florida man gets coronavirus from
From
rubbing
rubbing
his teammates'
feet.
feet. That is a headline.
Oh my God! Moving on
Oh,
to
God.
the one of the last games that played last night before the suspension, and that was my Knicks and the Hawks. That game went to overtime. Surprisingly, the Knicks won, but the Hawks aren't that much better. But one of the greatest moments of the season happened. I wanted the Knicks to win, but I was right there when I heard the chants start going on in the stadium. I was doing the same thing from my TV screen, and Lloyd Pierce listened to the rest of us, put him in, and look, Vince Carter came out.
Baby.
Yes. So we were at the free throw line. People were so excited. It was dope. And what I loved, and even though it didn't take much effort because the Knicks don't play much defense anyways, the Knicks pretended to move out of his way so he can get that shot as if they would have been able to stop the shot
Stop him
anyways.
anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. But yeah, we were at the free throw line. He checked in. Fist bump from some people. I'm pretty sure he missed his free throw because that's the Knicks, right? I'll make sure. Hold on. Is that Julius Randle? Yeah, we definitely missed that. Did he make it?
Oh, wow.
I honestly don't remember.
No
I was
way.
so excited. No, I don't. Look. Oh, go ahead, Julius. Yeah, my God. Go ahead, Julius. So this is the moment right here. Obviously, they knew. Like, you can see the double screen coming. They're going to give this shot wide. Look. And the best part, splash.
That's
Like,
awesome.
isn't that dope? That's so dope.
I pray
That's-
that's not the last
Right.
shot
I know.
I've ever seen him take. I mean, we knew this was going to be his last season, but
Yeah, but not like
But
that.
so
like
abrupt
this.
like this, yeah. And especially if they go into what we were talking about earlier, where they just go right into the playoffs come April or come May, then we're not going to see any more Hawks
Yeah.
games, and it'll be the end of it. So that might be the last shot. And he actually spoke on that following the game and a post game, and I'm not even going to say anything because it was all Vince Carter. So take it away, Vince. Say your thing.
Okay.
Well, all right. Vin.
So I did watch this moment. It actually
Yeah.
made me cry.
Yeah, because he was
Yeah.
he was fighting it. He was fighting
Yeah.
it the whole entire time.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
And he's-
heart broke.
I
Yeah.
mean, 43 years old this
That's
man is.
crazy.
Yeah.
And he
playing
still was
in the
playing
NBA.
well. That's the
Right.
thing. He was still playing good because his
Yeah.
jump shot, he found a jump shot, and that's what he
Right.
didn't have his whole career, and he was doing well with it, man.
Right.
That's the thing. You got to evolve, right? Your talent changes, so you got to.
Your boy knows.
evolve.
LeBron.
Yeah, I
Look,
know,
LeBron
I
had no
know.
jump shot his rookie year.
Yep.
You ready for it?
All right, we
Here
ready?
we go.
All right, run that clip.
I'm not one for the whole thing anyway. So you ask a lot of people around me, they'll tell you this. You know, I'm one like I'm appreciative, but you know, I do my time and just walk out the door is okay with me. You know, believe it or not, but it's cool. Believe it or not, it's cool. I just game's been good.
Man, the minute that he's looking up, he's fighting the tears like, that was rough.
Yeah.
I know.
That's
But
right.
shout out to Vince, man. Great career. I'm hoping they give us just like a 5-game cushion before the playoffs, something like that. and maybe we'll get to see him play one more time. But we'll see what happens when all those decisions are made.
Yeah. Oh, send in love.
All
Okay.
right, so this whole situation is a WTF moment to me. Like, I just wasn't expecting it. But I just want to shout out this soccer coach really quick because he's getting a little bit of flack for this online.
Why?
But this is his reaction now. If you guys cannot read lips, when the fan stuck his hand out, he said, "Put your hands away from me, you effing idiot."
I love this so
Can
much.
he walk in front of me everywhere
Every
I
time.
go?
But the security guard's face is the best because he's like, damn, man, yeah, what you doing?
But people were doing that like when the basketball teams were like leaving yesterday
Right.
too, and then like they're not going to give you a high five.
Right,
know.
yeah. So
Oh
whoever's
my
giving him
gosh.
flack, just make sure, I don't know.
No, I
wash
was
your hands.
dying. I
yeah.
loved him.
Like even us, and we like each other. We're like, okay, good.
Yeah. Not a lot of touching
Right.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, shout out to that guy.
Yeah,
man. That was
so if shutting down the city or the NBA is weird to you, then just know that the city has been shut down. Santa Clara County has shut down all mass gatherings over 1,000 people. That includes mega churches, fun fact.
Wow.
And San Francisco has said, you know what, that's a damn good idea. We're going to do the same thing. Because San Francisco Mayor London Breed said, quote, "We're following the recommendations of public health officials to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. This order mirrors actions taken by other local governments and is informed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines. We know canceling the event is a challenge for everyone, and we've been talking with venues and event organizers about the need to protect public health. Today I spoke with the Warriors to discuss the steps we're taking to cancel large events, and they're in support of our efforts." So
Seattle did the same
Yeah.
thing, and actually, update on California,
Yeah.
they just changed it from 1,000 to 250 people.
oh,
Imagine.
dang, that's
statewide.
everybody's church.
Statewide. What are they doing with Disneyland?
That's what I said.
Right?
I know.
Mickey, what you doing, dog? Mickey
Hey,
Mouse, get it figured
Mickey's
out.
like, y'all can't see me.
Yeah, right.
Now I'll get out of this.
Yeah, man.
Well, imagine if you had a wedding that was like 275 people or
First of
300
all, you're very
people.
popular if you have that many people.
I know.
married.
I
I'd have a
But yeah,
wedding
that.
everybody.
I'm not.
I don't even like that many people to come.
Look, man.
Like,
Me either.
I had
My-
10 people at my
to me, I'm
wedding.
just gonna be like, I just want to do it to be like, I'm inviting all my ex-boyfriends. I'm gonna look so fine.
Girl, you're gonna have a towel fight at your wedding. It's gonna be like, boy, I had a first. You can do
Crazy.
it for the gifts, though.
Oh, now
That's-
you're thinking.
That's the thing.
Now you're
Invite the
thinking.
big
Yeah.
yeah. to get the gifts.
That's
Yes.
true.
Every rich person you ever met in your
Yep.
life,
You
Yep.
know I love you, man.
come to my wedding.
All right.
All right. Well, that wraps
in.
It is time
Go
for
in.
Brit's Take. Obviously, we're continuing with this coronavirus trend that we've been talking about all show today because it's so important. I've been checking my phone every second during the show to see if the NCAA has finally decided to join the ranks of the NBA and the NHL, but they have not. The NCAA currently still has the tournament set to be played. Obviously, we're waiting to see. I'm sure they're going to eventually cancel it, but they haven't done so far. All the Power 5 leagues have, though. Obviously, that's ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, SEC, and the Pac-12 have all canceled their tournaments. Florida State won for the ACC, so they'll be coming out for the ACC, even though they have a bunch of great teams in there,
Yeah,
like
that's
Duke.
crazy, man.
Duke, though, recently just announced that all of their athletic events are canceled completely. So even if they would have gotten that bid, they are not letting Duke play in the NCAA tournament if there happens to be an NCAA tournament.
They're going.
Pac-12 did the same thing. They said all of their sporting events are completely canceled. Big East actually was the last team to finally come out and say that they were going to cancel their event, which is crazy. Like, I think slowly but surely all of these teams are coming out saying, but they have all picked a winner from their thing to go to the NCAA tournament, which is so crazy to me because the NCAA perfectly had an out to say, like, we are going to follow because the NBA said it.
Right.
Because I get it, you guys have TV time, you guys have to have your guys' tournament finished before the draft and all this kind of stuff, but because the NBA pushed their season back or postponed their season, NCAA, that was your perfect chance to say, okay, well, now we won't be interference with the NBA playoff schedule. We won't have to have players that won't be able to participate because they have to get ready for the draft and whatever the case. So this is a perfect time for us to say, hey, we should cancel too because guess what? We're known for not giving a crap about our players. And then a lot of these schools actually have canceled school, but then you still want these guys to play in a tournament game with a bunch of people from all different places. Like these first round of tournaments is going to be 8 different schools playing in a location, like together. Like I get it. You guys got rid of the fans. That's a first start. But if all the other leagues are slowly but surely saying they're going to cancel, like their whole or suspend their whole season, like it's crazy for me that the NCAA has still continued to let their players play in this. Like I don't understand. Like I understand the TV time, whatever, but like Baylor, Cincinnati, Virginia, and Ohio State and Michigan for football have already decided to cancel all football activities, and basketball is still going on to where these kids are going to have to play basketball games next week. Like starting Tuesday is when like the first 4 come out. Yeah. Like this is ridiculous. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question. If one of these kids come up with it, do they have a right to sue?
Well, that's the only thing, and the only reason why I think at some point today we'll hear the NCAA make an announcement, but clearly it was never because of the safety of the players, or they would have made this announcement
missed that window
already.
Right.
They missed it already. Whatever they do now, I don't even care.
No,
like,
seriously.
It clearly proves that you guys, which we already knew, you guys don't give a crap about the players.
Right.
But this moment clearly proves you guys do not care about the players.
Right.
And the only way is the NCAA lawyers are going to come in and say, we might get sued now, so maybe we should cancel or postpone this. That is the only thing that's stopping the NCAA right now, because they have an open window because everything else has been put on pause to put theirs on pause too, and not lose any revenue because of it. Because the networks are still going to stay with them, because they're not going to then go and say, oh, I'm just going to do NBA playoffs, because the NBA's paused too. So literally they could have both paused it and then continued everything as status quo once everything's like taken care of and fixed.
It's embarrassing for the NCAA to see all of these professional leagues come out and put the health of the employees and the athletes above everything else, and then they're sitting there like.
And even on top of that, they got ACC, they got all these divisions within your umbrella. Like that was your second window. When you start seeing this, that's when you come in and say, all right, cool, we're gonna pull the plug.
And ACC actually got a little flat because they were later. They were the last of the Power 5 schools to say that they were gonna. They actually had Florida State and Clemson were already warming up. They were already getting ready to play today, because let's remember, guys, the conference championships started today. Like it was supposed to go today till Saturday. So these teams were already scheduled to play today. They were already out in their uniforms and stuff like that. So the ACC got a little flack for being the last of the Power 5 schools, but they still did it before the NCAA did it. Like I think the ACC was waiting for the because a lot of the top teams are in the ACC. So I think they didn't want to do something and then have to say, oh, well, we have to just pick Florida State as the winner, even though Duke is a close second, and then you still have other great teams, Louisville still in there. So they didn't want to say like, oh, for sure we're just going to do this and make Florida State the winner, because the ACC championship tournament is almost very close to what we're going to see in March Madness. You know, so I think they were waiting, hoping that the NCAA would be the ones that came and said, actually, we're going to cancel it for everybody. But they did it, and they still haven't done anything. Still to this, I'm still waiting on my phone. I was like almost praying that before I get to my section, please, NCAA, have a little. I mean, you guys have already lost all respect from most people anyway, because you've waited so long. So whatever you do now is just obviously people are just going to think it's because of legal reasons. The only reason, or the only thing I could say as why they would and could keep it is if maybe they put together something to where they tested every single player before they hit the court, and every single coach or anybody who's in the building has to get tested before they play. How would they do that before the NBA?
How would they do that before the NBA?
Yeah.
Like, how would they get to all their teams before the NBA?
Well, the NBA's already, it's too late for the NBA because a player was already tested positive. The NBA's original game plan was the game plan that the NCAA has right now, which is we're playing with no fans in the stands and very limited amounts of family members. That was what the NBA was going to do. Going into last night, that was the plan. But within 30 minutes of it was 3 minutes within Rudy Gobert testing positive. It was 9:27 when he tested positive, and at 9:31, the NBA suspended their league. So that's because the player tested positive, though. So now they're like, oh, now we have to backtrack. We have to go test. But right now, the NCAA could get a little in front of it and say before the tournament starts next week, we could test everybody. It takes like 5 hours to get the test results or whatever. Test everybody, keep the players secluded to their hotels or wherever they're at, and then bring them into the game and play the game like that. That's the only thing I could think that they would be trying to do, because I also get the other side of it. These guys, some of them are seniors, some of them are never going to play basketball ever again, and to get into this moment where you're getting, like we were talking about the other day, when we didn't think it was fair that the Ivy League just picked a winner and not let the players play. Like, I could see that side of it too, because honestly, when I saw the ACC thing with Florida State and stuff, I actually got some tears in my eyes, because I was like, there's these young kids, and they were so geared up and excited to play, and they just had like this look of defeat on them. Like, even though they were named like, oh, you guys are the bid that gets to get an automatic bid or whatever to the NCAA tournament, they still were like, dang, we wanted to play for this, or we wanted to whatever. So I could see the NCAA at least trying to, they're not doing it for the kids' purposes, but the benefit of it is these kids would get to play those last games that they want to play, or get to experience. March Madness is almost everybody that likes basketball's favorite time of the year. You know, like everybody loves March Madness. And imagine how these players feel like, oh my gosh, teams that, I think it was Rutgers or something, who hasn't been in the tournament since 1991, getting a chance to play in the tournament and stuff. Like, it's like such a good experience for these young guys. And even like watching old school players that like now are great in the NBA, like everybody always goes back to their good moments when they were in college, you know? So I think it's sad to see.
They can, because I know the NCAA right now has a really bad reputation for not notoriously not caring about these kids. Do you think that they can somehow PR that into their reasoning for not, because
I mean, hire me. You guys
I was gonna say, it depends on who their PR guy is.
They're definitely gonna need a PR thing right now, because that's the narrative. I saw Matt Barnes this morning say the same thing. He was like, let me start this off by saying the NCAA does not care about these kids at all, and that's the narrative. And so I feel like that's
and they do it to themselves.
That's for sure.
They're doing it
but
to
now
themselves.
it's an uphill battle for them, especially now when you see all.
Then
these
take
people.
the windows. Like, then take these opportunities, because you can still. Because it's a suspension, so you can still suspend and do what Britt just said. You can still suspend it, make those decisions, and then make that report over the weekend saying like, all right, well, we decided to test players, we'll be resuming on Tuesday. Like, you can still do both.
Right.
But
Well, you know what's interesting also about this, and maybe you guys already addressed this, but I was checking to see if there had been any other updates as well, because I wanted to get them in here if there were. But if we're seeing NBA players getting coronavirus, these students who are on university campuses with like 40,000 other people sometimes, in a classroom, and then going into a frat house or whatever it is. I mean, someone likely has it and is spreading it around to everybody. So even that, just as a precautionary thing, things should be put on hold.
Well, like Britt said, Rudy had it and was 100% healthy and okay to play.
Right.
So these kids who are, younger,
Donovan Mitchell didn't even have any symptoms.
Probably don't even have any symptoms. They could literally be passing it, back and forth. So it's an unfortunate situation. The NFL, just quick update, NFL just canceled their annual meeting. Because of this virus. So, but that's literally making the NCAA last man.
I'm saying, like,
nobody is more like greedy and doesn't care about their league and players than the NFL.
Mr. Goodell.
If the NFL,
So good for him being second to last.
He's like, I'm not gonna be last, Bob, but damn it.
Let me look better than the NCAA.
Right.
Pop my collar real
You see what I did with my NFL?
I beat him though.
I did it before the NCAA did it. You see me?
Well, my friend's husband is actually on the executive board for the NFLPA. He plays for the Titans, and they have been at a hotel they're doing all of their stuff the last couple days. They've all been together, the NFLPA, like discussing, obviously, because they were supposed to make decisions by the 14th, I believe.
Right.
So, yeah. It's interesting to see.
I know.
It's crazy. I hope you guys are all being safe, first and foremost.
It's smart, man.
And smart with what you're doing. Don't be afraid to go into your antisocial bubble at this point.
Seriously.
I think everyone will understand.
That's what I've been telling everybody, man. Stay home unless you absolutely need to go out.
And obviously we all know, as of yesterday, it has been named a pandemic. The difference between an epidemic and a pandemic, an epidemic is like just centered around like one community, so it's like an epicenter, and then obviously a pandemic means it's a worldwide problem. So that's pretty big in and of itself, and that is honestly why a lot of the leagues have decided to suspend everything, because it was officially named a pandemic yesterday.
Gotta stop the spread.
And I saw one of you guys in the chat said stay hydrated. Yes, that is a key component. So make sure you guys are drinking a lot of water, not a lot of soda.
Yes, water.
Put the Mountain Dew down, guys.
That's fine, Britt. We still have a few minutes in here, so I kind of want to answer some of the comments that are coming through in the chat. If you guys have anything else that you want to update or add, feel free to do that. One thing that Carson Golf said is that most universities are going online and in-class activities are now being canceled. That is true. However, that's a recent development, and this coronavirus is something that we've been seeing pop up here for quite a bit longer than that.
Yep.
So I think that even though universities are trying to take action and tell students to stay home, that doesn't mean that these athletes, these basketball players, have not already come into contact with the coronavirus, which is just another reason. It would just be a great way to spread the coronavirus around even more if these tournaments continue to happen.
Well, and
Nothing
another
is
thing,
said.
Kansas actually just announced that they will not be letting any of their athletes participate in the NCAA tournament either, and they're
Wow.
canceling
That's
all their events.
even worse.
So I think
That's even
I
the
know.
worse.
NCAA will be forced into this at this
That's-
point because of teams like Duke cannot play now, the Pac-12. So I've clearly talked about this multiple times. Half of the top 25 players in the women's, because we haven't talked a lot about the women's March Madness NCAA tournament, are all from the Pac-12.
Yep,
and Pac-12 announced none of their athletes are getting to participate. Top of three of those
much
teams
worse,
are actually
man.
top 10 teams.
Yeah, but
so
see, now they're going to be forced to take, and that
And
actually
that's worse.
looks bad.
And
Like,
that's
you should
worse.
not
That's
be
the problem.
forced to take this action.
Yeah.
I feel bad for y'all.
But
Not really,
because
but
they don't
damn.
have jurisdiction over what the universities do individually. So I think the universities are finally giving a point like, you
like,
guys,
yo, we gonna do
we gotta
something.
do it.
Yeah,
So
right.
It's gonna be
This
gonna
is
be
bad.
forced
Watch,
to.
watch all the schools pull out of the tournament
And
before
then
NCAA
most,
says
NCAA
anything.
most of them are.
Like
It's
that
like-
little kid beam.
Yeah.
Right.
With ACC and the Pac-12 out, like that's huge.
It's
Or-
Yeah,
I think
100%.
the narrative is wrong. Like they're kids. You should care about their health and what happens to them. Even if you don't, somebody in your PR team should say,
Should be
we should
saying
look
something.
like we care.
Right.
Exactly. Look at Roger Goodell, man. He's looking like he cares about his guys.
I want to
Right?
I want to mention one last thing before we wrap up today's live. Giannis actually reactivated his Twitter account to react to all of this news. His account has been deactivated since Kobe passed. He said, basketball becomes secondary. Take care of yourselves and your family. Wash your hands often. So he just has a message of support and love and also advice for his followers, which I think is great. I'm glad that people are taking it seriously now.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
And take Britt's
There was-
advice.
there was-
Always look at the bright
What?
side.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
was a video of your guy Taj Gibson with the Knicks, and he was like looked into the camera. He's like, "Wash your hands."
No, I didn't see that.
Seriously. All right, you guys, well, that wraps up our live segment for today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And
Subscribe.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your
damn
hands. Sanitize. No handshakes.
Fist bumps always.
Yes.
Stay home.
Whatever you
Throw them
do.
bows.
And make sure you dress in something that matches us tomorrow. We don't know what we're wearing yet, but hopefully you'll figure it out. All right, you guys, see you later.